It's the morning. We're leaving Chichester so soon, which sucks. But we've been keeping on top of the rail workers' actions, and turns out that now, while we still only have one train out of here an hour, we no longer have to change trains in Horsham or Barnum or any of those things. It's just a straight shot from Chichester to London Victoria Station, so that's a positive. And now it's coffee time. I do like the general vibe of this coffee shop. This is Harris and Hoole. And it's just nice to have coffee made from an espresso machine. Which I know I mentioned earlier, but still. It's nice. It's a good latte. Well, an hour and a half later, we're in London, Victoria. That ended up being a very reasonable and pleasant and direct train from Chichester. So now we have to figure out how to use the underground and get to our hotel and then off to lunch. The recommendation of others, we're staying at the Tavistock Hotel, mostly because it's central and fairly reasonably priced, and can't be worse than the Travelodge in Chichester, which was fine. And again, you can't beat the central location of that particular Travelodge, but boy, that was the least fancy. It was a room with a bed. It was a room with a bed. Did the job. Didn't have a hairdryer. It had one. It had one dispenser for shampoo and wash. The light in the bathroom took about 10 full seconds to turn on. Couldn't control the fan. The fan just seemed to come on in the mornings, sort of when I guess they assumed that people would take showers.
The plug near where the kettle that they provided, which obviously all British people use, the plug that was where you plugged in the kettle, you could see that the wallpaper above it was all peeling because of all the steam that had hit it over the years. It was honestly phenomenal for how tatty it was. However, it was cheap and really centrally located, and for that it can't be beat.
That said, I am looking forward to hopefully some kind of middle ground between the Renaissance in Barcelona and the Travelodge in Chichester. And so far, just from walking through this park, the Tavistock looks like we're gonna hit somewhere between those two.
I mean, it's already got a lobby and not just an antechamber with a vending machine.
We didn't film the Travelodge, but really we should have.
We should have.
It was dire. It was a sad place.
I'm like, it's not like I'm so fancy and I have like these super high standards. It looked like the kind of hotel you would get bed bugs in.
Well, it's only noon, so we can't really check in yet, but we were able to shed all of our baggage, and now we can properly head to lunch. We're currently passing through this very cool tunnel at St. Pancras Station, and we're here with my, oh god, we just talked about this, second cousin once removed. That was it, sorry, yes, Penelope's third cousin once removed. This is Anthony. If you recall from previous episode, James, my first cousin, my cousin once removed. This is James's grandson. Yes. Got it. We got it. We last saw you 12 years ago?
Something like that.
We went for a curry when we visited Chichester. So, yeah, and now we're catching up, which is great. And we'll catch up with you later.
Due to today's inclement weather, please take extra care whilst on the station.
There's a line outside King's Cross St. Pancras Station to get into the line inside the station to take your picture at the platform 9 3/4. They added a tourist destination to the underground station, and in doing so, completely ruined it. There's so many people here just to do the Harry Potter thing. The security man in charge of the lines is wearing a Warner Brothers security staff vest. This is actually like being managed by Warner Brothers corporate. I wonder if they're paying the station for this.
This is a Circle Line train via Tower Hill and Victoria. The next station is Aldgate.
I actually don't know how many times I've been to London. Maybe 5 or 6. And I've never been to the Tower of London. So we're going to the Tower of London. Considering the scale of this building, it's actually amazing to me that I've never seen it. Never even seen it. London might be large.
All right, because I am a goblin, and I'm a goblin of a certain persuasion, my first question for Anthony was, how are you? But my second one was, what's the worst tourist attraction in all of London? And he basically, with almost no thought at all, or perhaps he had already given it thought, he said, oh, definitely this thing over at King's Cross where you've got to wait in a line to take a picture with a sign of platform 9 3/4. And I went, oh, that does sound like rubbish. But it was even more crap than I had realized. It's you get to wait in line outside to then wait in line inside to go take a picture with a sign that says platform 9 3/4. But on the bright side, Warner Brothers has had to provide security for it. Because if I was like the London Transport Authority or whatever that you sort of overseeing body is, I'd be like, wait, so you're telling me you've installed something to make a huge mess and you expect us to police it? Absolutely not. You pay for that. So at least it's costing Warner Brothers money. One of our ravens in the tower likes to lie on her back and play dead if she's not getting enough attention.
Like a cat.
Yeah, to prevent the ravens from flying away, the Raven Master trims their lifting feathers on one wing. This procedure does not hurt the birds, but by unbalancing their flight, it ensures they stay safe and do not leave the tower.
Right, folks, good afternoon. First and foremost, welcome to His Majesty's Royal Palace and Fortress, the Tower of London. My name's Yeoman Warder Lawrence. I'm going to look after you for the next 25-30 minutes. For those who may or may not be aware, all of the Yeoman Warders you see on duty here today, we are all former soldiers, sailors and airmen, having served for a minimum of 22 years in the armed forces. During my military career, I've seen active service involved in police support and counter-terrorism operations in Northern Ireland, peacekeeping, peace enforcement, operations in the former Republic of Yugoslavia, war fighting in Iraq, and counter-insurgency operations in Afghanistan. But apparently, taking a guided tour in the rain is classed as too dangerous. So, as a result of that, we are going to head inside the chapel, because heaven forbid I should get a little bit wet doing my job. One last thing to mention, when they built that chapel, they included a rather awkward step right in the doorway, and this caused people to trip over it and hurt themselves all the time. We have removed that step and added 2 ramps either side, which cause people to trip over them all the time. So please be careful, folks, when you enter the door. Avoid that little ramp and you can walk in. If you don't avoid the ramp, you will dive in, providing me with ample entertainment, but yourself with a medical bill. Right, folks, may you out to my colleague. They'll lower the chain. I'll be waiting for you inside.
As you will have heard, we couldn't film inside the chapel, so you didn't get to hear any of his thing, but also just come here and see it yourself. It ain't cheap, but it's a lot. It's fascinating learning about all the people, what got killed, and now we're in line, a sizable line, but it's moving briskly for the crown jewels. They know how to queue here in England. It's a national pastime.
I didn't take a hooded jacket to England because I'm a fool. I have no raincoat. I'm gonna have to buy a plastic bag.
It's interesting seeing which things they've replaced in a more permanent fashion with the CR3 rather than the ER2, and which things they've sort of had to do a bit of a patch job until they can get a more permanent replacement, because it's not all been perfect. Not allowed to film the crown jewels, so I guess you just have to come here.
Lovely and dry and warm in there. That's where you want to be. That's where all the objects are. So please put your phones and cameras away before going in. That speeds the process up.
If you're the king, especially if you're Henry VIII, there's no way you're not asking for a little more room in the codpiece. I love how you can see all the different eras of wall construction just by looking at one of the walls. It's all like different kinds of bricks and very obvious arches that have been filled in. Almost like this place has been used for over 1,000 years. One of the yeoman warders was like, there's not supposed to be a queue for this torture the tower thing. I don't understand. And she came through and hustled people along. It's just one room with like a replica of the rack and like not very much going on. I don't know why it was so clogged up.
I thought it would be like a whole thing.
I thought it'd be a whole thing too.
Well, judging by the line.
All right. Yes, the Queen Elizabeth II downspout. Lovely, lovely. Okay, Tower of London, much more involved than I had originally suspected. To the point you could spend all day here, and we felt rushed, honestly, only being here for a few hours. It was not cheap, but I imagine if you get to spend more time here, you might feel that you get your full value out of it.
So we actually did the guided tour, we did the crown jewels, we saw the White Tower, we saw the Ravens, and we saw the one torture room that everybody queued up for way too long to see. So the only thing we missed was the medieval palace and battlements, so that's pretty good. We're quick.
You know, at Disneyland, when they close. It's like no more admission at this point. And then they sort of start closing it at when it's closing time. They close at the furthest reaches of the park and slowly sort of shuffle it out. They started packing up like 20 minutes ago. It's like, no, this thing shuts down at 5:30. People want to go home. They got places to be. Thinking about Paul again, I wish he was here, but somehow more French than before. Ah, well. Tower of London, good job. It was a fun time. Not really a tower, though. I mean, is it really?
It was a tower.
Technically, there was a tower in the middle. The White Tower is the Tower of London, and the rest of this is just the
battlements.
The battlements and the surrounding buildings of the Tower of London. But we call it the Tower of London because it's easier. And now pigeons. Holy moly. Feeling very John Woo right now. Anyway, back on the Circle Line and back to our hotel. Oh, I never mentioned earlier, we did successfully have lunch with Anthony, but I wasn't allowed to film anything inside the building because he works. Well, if you search within the engine of your mind, you might be able to find the right alphabet to Google. It was Google. He works at Google and we can't film in there. It's not a big deal. Kathleen was reading a book by Bill Bryson. Kathleen, what was the fun fact that you learned from the book by Bill Bryson?
Well, the book by Bill Bryson came out in 2015. So, but at the time of publication, it said something like 600,000 people are in transit on the entire underground tube network, which makes it a more exciting and lively place than Oslo.
There is double the population of my hometown of Victoria on the underground at any given moment. That's wild.
I mean, there's hundreds of people on every single one of these trains going by. And they're going by like every minute.
Yeah, we've seen 4 district line. This is the 4th district line train we've seen go by in the time we've been waiting for a Circle Line train, and they're all full. Pretty amazing. Although this, the 4th in, I'd say, the 4th in maybe 6 minutes, is the emptiest. So we're flushing them out.
Yeah. How busy is this Circle Line train going to be, though?
This is already a much nicer room than the Travelodge. 3 beds, which is interesting. 3 single beds.
It's an old-fashioned hotel.
Old-fashioned, old-timey. I like it.